Hello, my name is Danny Lee, Texas Realtor with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Premier Properties, the Bayou to Beach Group. I focus on new construction in Brazoria and Galveston counties, and I love working with hometown heroes, educators, veterans, first responders, and healthcare professionals. Today, we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of buying new construction, and we're going to get started right now. Welcome back. In my previous video, I talked about the 5 things that suck about trying to buy a pre-owned home. Today, we're going to discuss the pros and cons of buying new construction. There are some great aspects to new construction and some not so great, so be sure to stay to the end if you want to hear the whole story. I'll start with the advantages. First, when buying a new home, you have 2 basic choices. You can start from the ground up, select a lot, a floor plan, the upgrades you want, and then 6 to 9 months later, you're ready to move in. Or if you're looking for something considerably quicker, builders create what they call inventory homes that are ready for move-in now or within a few months. To be clear, I'm listing these 2 choices in the pro column because in comparison to having pre-owned, you simply walk into a builder's model home, accompanied by your realtor, of course, and just make your selection, period. There's no desperate fight to the death with a crowd of other buyers in an ugly bidding war over an older home, which I believe I mentioned previously really sucks. Second, there's one great thing about a new home that might not be on your radar. They almost always have a 10-year warranty. So if you're worried about things going wrong, this is significant peace of mind. It's essentially the same type of benefit you'd expect from buying a new car from the dealership versus taking your chances at the used car lot. Third, some new communities generally have really nice communities. As you can guess, larger communities have better amenities such as restaurants, fitness centers, water parks, tennis courts, petting zoos with friendly alpacas. Well, maybe not that last one yet, but there's hope. In contrast, the smaller communities tend to have simpler amenities, such as walking trails and splash pads for the kids. Fourth, there are several unique financial benefits in new home construction purchases that you might not expect. To be competitive, especially with inventory homes, many home builders are offering financial incentives from $5,000 to $20,000, which can either go towards your closing costs, reduce your purchase price, or even buy appliances. Additionally, most builders almost always have affiliated or preferred lenders who will offer more incentives, typically $3,000 to $5,000 towards the closing costs. Further, if you're one of the hometown heroes I mentioned earlier, you should know that some of the builders offer additional incentives for hometown heroes. I'll be happy to provide details to you directly about that. On top of that, out of my personal respect for what you have done for our country or local community, I created my own Bayou Beach Heroes program offering up to $1,500 towards closing costs. The net effect of these various incentives is to leave money in your pocket when buying your new home and maybe even making that purchase more feasible. So, I talked about some of the great things about buying new homes, but face it, nothing's perfect. So here's a few things you ought to consider as well. First, the tax rate in new communities is about 1% higher than in older, more established neighborhoods. When a new community is planned, a municipal utility district called a MUD is formed to borrow tens of millions of dollars to pay for all of the water and sewer infrastructure. The community homeowners are then jointly responsible for paying off that debt over a long period of time, which is handled as the MUD tax. Someone has to pay for it, right? By the way, I'm going to pause briefly here to slide in a very important tip for you. On occasion, a new build community will pop up where a developer has found land within city boundaries and tapped into existing city water and sewer, avoiding the MUD tax. So they have a very reasonable rate. I call these communities unicorns because they're almost a mythical beast that is really hard to find. I monitor these communities closely as they initially develop land, build homes, and then typically sell out quickly within 1 year or less. I'm willing to share the intel in these communities. Continuing with the list of cons, the HOA or homeowners association fees are fairly expensive, especially in new master plan communities in excess of $1,000 yearly, mostly to pay for those awesome amenities that I mentioned earlier. Third, and finally, as time marches on, the location of available land to develop these new communities is further and further away from the metro city center. So if you're driving into town, you might want to think about the travel time and what is and is not an acceptable commute for you. It's worth mentioning, however, that there's one interesting exception for healthcare professionals. The Lagomar Master Plan community in Galveston County is roughly the same drive to UTMB in Galveston, to the Texas Medical Center, or even to the Pearland Hospital Zone. Buying in Lagomar could provide some significant job flexibility since a home relocation would not be required when switching jobs between these three employment zones. Today, I've covered the pros and cons of buying new construction. For my next video, I'll share the details of the process of buying new construction. Heads up, because I'll be giving you the essential information that you'll need to avoid costly mistakes. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe and click the notification bell. I publish new videos every Tuesday. If you'd like more information about the Hometown Heroes incentive programs we mentioned earlier, please look for a link below in the description.